Today we're doing something a little different because tomorrow, Dr. John Delony's brand new book, Building a Non-Anxious Life, comes out. So I've got our own Ramsey personality, Dr. John Delony, one of the fan favorites if you've ever been to a EntreLeadership Master Series or EntreLeadership Summit, where you've heard him speak. He's always very popular with our business owners of 2 people or 250 people, 500 people, whatever. Small business owners love Dr. John Delony. And so we wanted to have him on today in honor of that book coming out tomorrow, but also because he's got a lot to say to businesses and to small business people. And because small business people, turns out, are people. Who knew?
Who knew?
There you go. So this whole thing of anxiety, there's something about the entrepreneurial experience. I always remember the famous John Johnson, editor of Ebony magazine. He said, the entrepreneur is the only person who can go from sheer terror to sheer exhilaration and back every 24 hours.
Every 24 hours.
I mean, it's like, you are riding the tiger with a rattlesnake in your teeth. I mean, there's just something going on all the time. And so it's almost as if anxiety is built into the idea of running a small business.
Yeah, I think if you back out, when I was a more of a snobby academic nerd, I like to hold anxiety over and push my glasses up my nose and say it's a clinical word that doesn't apply here. I think in our current culture, it's jumped the shark. It's become the word we use instead of worry, instead of stress, instead of burnout, instead of all these other words. We just say we're anxious.
Like instead of stuck-up jerk, we call someone a narcissist.
Right, exactly.
When they're not technically a narcissist.
No, they're just a jerk, man.
They're just a stuck-up jerk.
If you've ever been in a psych ward and been around a narcissist,
you wouldn't call anybody that.
Exactly. So I think if you're with somebody who's stressed, that's part of entrepreneurship, man. Is you are stepping out into the ocean with the hope that you can swim long enough to get on a little boat so you can build a bigger boat and you can build a bigger boat or whatever you're trying to do there. But there's an inherent anxiousness because you're jumping off the ship.
Yeah, I mean, you're riding a roller coaster. It's thrilling, but anxiety does apply. I mean, I'm anxious. The fear of the roller coaster is anxiety, is it not?
So all anxiety is, and I've said this a million times, I'll keep saying it, all anxiety is it's an alarm that your body sounds when things aren't safe.
Yeah.
And if you might not get paid tomorrow, you shouldn't sleep tonight. Your body would be failing you if it let you sleep.
Yeah.
If your business is underwater and you don't know how your family's going to keep a roof over their head, your body would be failing you if it let you just go right to bed.
So the problem is not anxiety. The problem is you're not getting paid tomorrow.
That's exactly right. The problem is...
Which causes anxiety, and anxiety is telling you, you're screwed. You need to do something about this.
That's right. So anxiety is almost never the problem. It's a great indicator. Most of us go through our lives duct taping over our gas gauge on our dashboard. And we just don't want to look at the gas. And when the car starts rattling, we hope we're by a gas station instead of paying close attention, letting it just tell us, hey, it's a good gauge for where we happen to be right now.
Dr. John Delony, the brand new book comes out tomorrow, Building a Non-Anxious Life. If you order it this instant, today, you get the pre-sale deal, which includes $75 worth of free bonus items. You can get that at RamseySolutions.com in the store. Be sure and check it out. That's the way to get the bargain on this. This is very applicable to small business. So I wanted to have him on the EntreLeadership podcast and talk about this stuff a little bit. So one form, I guess, I don't know if it's a subset or not, of anxiety is overwhelmed. And, this sense of everything's coming at me, chaos. And a lot of times when somebody's in the treadmill stage of business or even in the next stage up, there's a lot coming at you, and there's a lot of disorganization, not a lot of good systems. You're at it by yourself or virtually by yourself, and so you are overwhelmed. And with that comes this tremendous stress. So talk about the chaos and moving away from overwhelmed and how that lowers chaos or how that lowers anxiety.
I want to use a marriage analogy, if that's okay.
Sure.
So there's a great marriage therapist. She's an author, and she gave this analogy. She was talking about a couple who one of them had cheated on the other one. And she said, you could never have gone back on September 12th and swept up, after the Twin Towers fell, and swept up all of the glass and steel and wood and rebuilt the towers with those materials. those buildings fell. There's two choices. You walk away and let nature take it back over, or you get some professionals in there, you'll excavate the whole thing, you get some architects and you do some great R&D, and you build something new. The challenge is we always want to go back to the way things were. The way things, what used to be.
I don't want to.
And so when you're on a treadmill and you're on to the next stage, and all of a sudden you've got 10 employees instead of 5, or you got 2 employees instead of 1, or you got 10 customers and you're still the sole person there. You have to understand that the business you were running is over. Those towers have fallen. That part is over. The object now is not to crest it like it was to build something new. And the faster you can transition to that, the more pleasant that adventure is. So in my own house, my wife and I don't cheat on each other or anything like that. But we recognize this year, we have never been the parents of an 8th grader and a 2nd grader at the same time. So our marriage will be new. What we do, the rhythms of this year will be different. So we're going to put some things into place. As a business owner on this treadmill, you're running and you get more business here and then more business here. You need accountant over here. The quicker you can stop and say, okay, I got to build something new in this season. Now you get back in the driver's seat of your own life instead of getting pushed to the back seat by all the stuff coming at you.
Yeah, the stuff coming at you, I don't know if this is saying the same thing a different way, but you've almost got to get above it so you can organize it, because the way you eat an elephant is a bite at a time. It is not trying to eat the whole thing at once. You can't boil the ocean here.
You can't.
And so you got to get the ducks in a row, line them up, and then the stress goes down when there's like a system, or there's okay, we're going to prioritize this. Okay, we've got 6 things to do. I'm overwhelmed. Well, you're no longer overwhelmed when they're 1 through 6, when they're prioritized, when you force rank them. If I don't do anything else today, I'm going to do this, number 1. If I get that done, I don't do anything else today, what am I going to do? Number 2. That's simple time management. But simple time management like that, when you got 6 things coming at you and you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, type of stress, that type of anxiety, if you force rank them, you're organizing it and developing a plan to manage the activities so they don't manage you.
And the most common frustration I hear, and you've heard of infinitely more frustrations than I have, but the ones I hear the most from small business owners is when they're in that gap between, I need to hire 2 more people, and either my business isn't big enough to hire 2 more people, so I'm having to do it all, or I can't find those 2 people. And so anxiety is not taking away the stressor all the time. It's what you said, sometimes sitting down. So I've got a book. I've been on the road. I'm going to continue to be on the road. My wife and I sat down in July and said, okay, when August 15th hits, it's going to be chaos until October 15th, until October 30th, until November. We know it's coming, and we can begin to set up these things in play. It's when we think we're supposed to do everything and this thing on top of it. And so sometimes it's not even getting to that new thing. You're going to have to work some 20-hour days as an entrepreneur, probably a lot of them. It's when everybody in your world knows it. And when you go, okay, I'm going to give myself some grace over here, some peace over here.
And when you know there's an end to it.
That's it has to have a finish line. We can do this until Christmas.
When it's rat in the wheel in perpetuation, you get quote unquote burned out. The most overused phrase on the planet.
And let me just say, here's what burnout means. It's when your body says, I've given you enough signals, I'm out. I quit. That's your body saying I'm done. Because I've told you, I've tried to get you with anxiety, I've tried to get you with loneliness, I've tried to get you with depression and shut the whole thing down. I've tried to get your attention, you won't hear me. So before we have a stroke, I'm out. And that's when you can't get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Or it feels like you got an elephant sitting on your chest.
And when I was a kid, they called that like a nervous breakdown. I don't think that's technically a phrase, probably.
It's your body saying I'm out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, when you're a kid, we all knew a guy who had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
And in the last 30 years...
talked about in hushed tone.
But in the last 30 years, that's the world we've created for all of us. There was that one guy that just couldn't quit working and was always just bananas and hated it and never was around his family and going and going and going. That's all of us now.
Yeah, he was frenetic. Yeah.
That's all of us now. We've created that world for ourselves.
Dr. John Delony, the brand new book is Building a Non-Anxious Life. We're going to take some calls from those of you out there that want to be part of this discussion. The phone number is 844-944-1070. And he's one of our fan fave speakers at EntreLeadership Summit and EntreLeadership Master Series. We'll be right back on the EntreLeadership Podcast.